Welcome back to another lesson, and in this lesson I'd like to talk about a harmony concept called quartal harmony, or quartal chord voicings, or fourth chord voicings. I'm going to start by playing out a C minor 11th chord in two different forms. The first form is kind of the basic form that has the notes C, E flat, G, B flat, D, F. These are the degrees: first, flat and third, fifth, flat and seventh, ninth, and 11th. So this is the C minor 11th chord. Now let me play a second variation on this voicing. And just to convince you this is actually the same chord, minus the ninth degree, I'm going to move some notes around. So I'm going to take this G, move it down an octave. I'm going to take this E flat, move it down an octave. And I'm going to take this F, move it up an octave. So other than omitting the ninth, which is not that important tonally speaking, this is really the C minor 11th chord. This is the original form, and these were the notes in the second form. And the second form was this. Now, what's so interesting about this form? What's so interesting is that the musical intervals between the notes are mostly made out of fourths. And a fourth, if you remember, is an interval made out of 5 semitones. So, for example, let's look at these two notes in the second form, C and an F, and let's start counting the semitones between them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a perfect fourth. Let's take the second pair and start counting the semitones between them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another 5 semitones, meaning these are also a perfect fourth apart. These are also a perfect fourth apart, and we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And finally, the last two notes, the E flat and G, are actually not a perfect fourth apart. They're 4 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they don't fit the quartal fourth pattern, but it still remains that most of the notes in this voicing are a fourth apart. And what this gives the chord, or this particular chord voicing, is a very sort of open, modern sounding kind of harmonic sound. So we're just playing the same pattern transposed up and down in steps of whole semitones. So C minor, D minor, E minor, D minor, C minor, B flat minor, back to C minor. This is the idea of quartal voicings. If you can take a chord and create a voicing that's made out of a lot of fourth intervals in between, you can get this modern sounding chord. It's sort of interesting because it almost has no particular characteristic. It's almost impossible to decipher listening to it if this is a major chord, a minor chord. This kind of harmonic ambiguity is one of the appeals of these quartal chords, or fourth voicing chords. This is actually a minor chord because we've constructed it starting from a C minor 11th. But the truth is that once it's put in this form, this particular voicing, it's harder to identify. Alright, so what I'd like to do for the rest of this video is simply give you a few ideas on quartal voicings for both minor, major, and dominant chords. And you're free to download a cheat sheet which contains these different forms, the different ideas that I'm going to give you. The address is in the video's description. It's a PDF file. You can download it from my site and print it and use it for your own personal use. So let's get started and go over the different ideas. Alright, here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to go through the different patterns. There are 5 different patterns, just example patterns. And after I show all of them, I'll kind of stop and discuss each pattern or the basic motifs or ideas involved. Let's start with major chords. Suppose somebody tells you play a C major chord. Here are 2 variations that you might consider that have 4th voicings. The first is this. So I'm playing in E, A, D, G, and C, which are the 3rd, 6th or 13th, 9th, 5th, and 1st degrees of the C major scale. The second variation is this. This is a rootless voicing, so it actually doesn't have the C note itself. It has B, E, A, D, and G. If somebody tells you play a C minor chord, here's an interesting variation that has 4th voicing in it. This is the voicing that we saw at the beginning of the video. It has the notes C, F, B flat, E flat, and G. If somebody tells you play a C dominant or C7 chord, dominant 7th or C7th, then here are 2 options for playing that chord using 4th voicings. The first is this. What I'm playing here is an E, B flat, D, G, C. The second option is this. So what I'm playing here is a B flat, E, A, D, and G. Alright, let's talk just briefly about the different forms and the ideas behind them. First of all of the forms contained a lot of 4th intervals. For example, let's look at the C major forms. There were 2 forms that I laid out. This was the first. And you'll see that actually all of the notes here are a perfect fourth apart, meaning 5 semitones. These are 5 semitones apart, these 2 are 5 semitones apart, these 2 are 5 semitones apart, and these 2 are 5 semitones apart. Similarly, for the second form, 5, a perfect fourth, perfect fourth, perfect fourth, perfect fourth. For example, the dominant form, not all of the notes are 4th apart. These 2 are tritone apart, it means 6 semitones. These 2 are actually a major 3rd apart, but these 2 are a perfect 4th, and these 2 are a perfect 4th. For the second form of the dominant chord, almost all of the notes are a perfect 4th apart. These 2, and these 2. So all of the notes really have lots of 4th in them and therefore fall into the quartal harmony category. Now, let's look, just as an example, at the first form for 7th chords. And let me just convince you that this is actually a C7th, or actually in this case, a C9 chord. What I'm going to do is, just as I did with the minor chord, I'm going to take the C note, transpose it down 2 octaves to here. So, and then I'm going to take this G and transpose it down 1 octave. And I end up with this chord. The two chords are the same because they have the same notes. They have different voicings because I've moved the notes around. So this is actually the kind of basic C9 chord. Really, if somebody told you open up a theory book and construct a C9 chord, like the simplest type that you could come up with, you would say, okay, let me take the first, third, fifth, flattened 7th and 9th degrees of the C major scale, and here's my C 9th chord. What we did instead is moved the notes around and ended up with this, quartal fourth voicings of the C 9th chord. You should do this with all of the other different forms. Let's take one extra example. Let's take this form, the second form for the C major chord. Let's start moving notes around. I'm going to take this B, move it up here. This G, move it down here. And I'm going to take this, actually I'm going to leave it like this. So first of all, this is a rootless voicing, as I've noted before. The C chord, the C note is missing, which is fine. You're kind of assuming that in this voicing that the bass player is taking care of playing C. And if we were to add C, what we'd get is a C major 9th chord with a 6th added, or a 13th added. The 6th is also a 13th. But we get it with this kind of 7th open chord of voicing. Now it's extremely important that you take all of these forms and practice them for all different chords. So you have 5 forms, you have 12 different notes, right, on the piano. So just sit down and practice all 5 forms for all 12 possible notes. That's 60 combinations. It's a lot, but it's worth doing. It will really build up your harmonic vocabulary. So if somebody tells you play a D minor, you could play a D minor, like a simple D minor chord, try it. But you could also say, maybe I should try one of the quartal voicings I know. And this sounds a lot more sophisticated, and it will add a lot more harmonic complexity to whatever it is you're playing. Sometimes you want that complexity and ambiguity, sometimes you don't. So it really depends on the context, but it's something that's very powerful to have and know how to sort of play immediately without thinking. That's it for now. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to download the cheat sheet from my website. You can print it, and then you can have all of these forms right there in front of you without accessing YouTube or this video. Of course, you're always welcome to come back and check out the other lessons, and I'll see you next time.